Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Allie. Today, I am finally getting around to filming the iconic baby names I love but won't be using video. I am so excited for today's content. I remember seeing this pop up on my YouTube channel like 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought to myself, this is such a silly concept. Who wants to sit there for like 10 to 30 minutes listening to somebody ramble off names that they love but won't be using? I ended up watching one of the videos and I was so hooked, so inspired. I actually fell in love with this entire video concept, and since then I have watched hundreds of these videos here on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are excited for this video. Maybe you are here just to hear some different baby names. Maybe you are trying to get inspired by some of the names that I have on this list, and maybe you want to put them on this list. Whatever it may be, I just hope that you guys are as excited for this video as I am to film this video. So before we actually jump into the video, just a couple of little back things to talk about, some like preferences, if you will. Number one, we are not finding out the gender of this baby. We did not find out the gender for our first pregnancy, and it was the best surprise of our lives. Like I get goosebumps thinking about my husband saying, we have a boy. We had a boy. Oh my God, you will never get that surprise back. In my personal opinion, there are just so few surprises left in life, and this surprise is unmatched. So we decided not to find out the gender for baby number 2. So on this list, I have boy names and I have girl names, and they're kind of just all jumbled into one whole list. I didn't do like a boy section and a girl section. They're just all kind of together. Number 2, I have categories for this video. Yes, I am so type A that I have categories for this video. I have 3 different categories. Category number 1 is a Disney inspired category. Why, you may ask? Well, number 1, I do love Disney so much. If you guys have been here on my channel for any amount of time, you would know that I am a huge Disney fanatic, but that is not the reason why I have a Disney category. Our baby, which, let's give you a little bump update. We getting pretty big, like we bumping. But the baby's due date is December 5th, which also happens to be Walt Disney's birthday. Like, what? Magic, honestly. How magical. Not saying that I'm going to have the baby on December 5th, but the baby's due date is December 5th. So I wanted to do a little Disney inspired category. In this category, you're not going to hear names that kind of like scream Disney. I didn't want to put names on this list that were like Ariel or Jasmine or Hans, you know, words and names that kind of like scream Disney. I just wanted names that were kind of inspired by Disney in some way, shape, or form. If you are a Disney fanatic, if you hear these names, you'd be like, oh, I know that name from this Disney movie or this Disney show. If you are not a Disney fanatic, it doesn't like jump out at you. So that is category number 1. Category number 2 is a Nicholas Sparks category. I have a Nicholas Sparks category because he is my favorite author, and we actually named our first son after a character in a Nicholas Sparks book. From Walk to Remember, we named Landon Carter from Walk to Remember. So we didn't pick out Landon's name until the 3rd trimester of my first pregnancy. We were really struggling hard with figuring out a boy's name. My husband one day was like, I really like the name Landon, and I was like, oh my God, one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite books from one of my favorite authors is Landon Carter. So we decided to name him Landon, middle name Carter, and then he has his Chinese middle name, which was given to him by his Yaya and his Ying Ying, aka Adam's parents. So I thought it would be fun to kind of keep the whole entire like Nicholas Sparks theme going. So I do have a category for Nicholas Sparks as well. And the final category, category number 3, is kind of like the catch-all category. It is just all of the names that really didn't fit into category number 1 or category number 2. So with all that being said, pretty sure most people already skipped over all of this and they want to just get to the names, which I do not blame you. Let's do this. Let's get on into the names. Okay, let's get on into category number 1, which is our Disney category. The first name on the list is a name that we absolutely will not be using, but I had to include it in this video per Landon's request. Again, Landon is 2 years old and 3 months, and he is very adamant that this baby is a girl. No matter how many people ask him, he always says, mommy is having a girl. If somebody says, what do you think mommy's having, a boy or a girl? It is always a girl, and he actually uses it in the right context. He will say, baby sister, I'm having a baby sister. So we're constantly asking him, what should we name the baby? Every single time for the past 5 months that I have been pregnant, that we have asked him what we should name the baby, he always responds with, Queen Elsa. So Queen Elsa is the first name that I do love, but we will not be using it. I again just had to include it in this video because I just think it is so cute. No matter how many different people ask him, no matter how many different times he is asked, he always says, we're having a girl, he's having a sister, and that sister is going to be named Queen Elsa. Okay, now time to jump into the actual list of all the names that are Disney inspired that I really love but won't be using. The first one being Willow. Willow has actually been on the top of my list for so long, even before I actually found out that I was pregnant. When we were actually just trying to conceive, I've always had Willow in my top 3 names that I would like to name my daughter. I just love that name, and actually I didn't even know that it was Disney inspired. I had that on my list for so long, and when I was looking up a list of Disney inspired names, it popped up from Pocahontas. I have not watched Pocahontas in so long, and then duh, like it makes sense, Willow from Pocahontas, like obviously. So it does show up on my Disney inspired list. However, it wasn't originally my Disney inspired name that I wanted to choose. I just love the name Willow. We have a different name that we picked out for a girl. I should have mentioned this. We are dead set on a name for a girl at this point. Boy, we're still in the works for the boy right now, but the girl's name we actually have set in stone, and it is not Willow, but Willow was always in my top 3 names for a girl. It is just such a beautiful name. I love the name Willow. Also, a lot of the names that are in other categories could also show up on a Disney inspired list. When I was looking through all of the Disney inspired names, I was like, wow, so many of the names that I was choosing already show up on this Disney inspired list. So they might be a little out of order here, but I kind of tried to hunk and chunk it into like the more predominant Disney names, more predominant Nicholas Sparks names, and then just the catch-all category, which some of the names in the catch-all category also could fall into the Disney inspired category. I am talking a lot, so I'm going to stop here. The next name on the list is Willow. Love that name, but won't be using it for this next baby. This next name, I just love this next name so much. I just could not get my husband on board, rightfully so. This next name is very unique. I personally like really unique names, and my husband kind of likes more traditional names. So we're kind of in like a medium zone. We're trying to find a name that will match both of our personalities, because we definitely like names on different ends of the spectrum. This next name is definitely unique. It is Elia. So a little backstory for this one. I am a teacher. If you guys are new here, I have been teaching, I'm going into my 12th year, which is pretty crazy, and I teach 5th grade. I have taught 5th grade predominantly for my entire career. I would say for the last 5-ish years, we have been reading the book Holes with our 5th grade class. There are some books that I'm like, if I have to read this book one more time for one more year, I am going to lose it. Holes is not one of those books. I could read that book every single year for the rest of my career and be so happy. I love that book. My students get so invested, and it is just such a great read in my personal opinion. One of the first times that I read that book, the character Elia comes up, Elia Yelnats. I fell in love with that name. I actually personally like that name a little bit more if we were to have a girl, but it also works really well for a guy, a boy as well. I just love that name. Again, it is very unique. You're gonna notice that a lot of the names on here are semi-unique because that's more my style, and I just could not get my husband on board with the name Elia. But I love that name, like Landon and Elia. I just feel like that flows so well. This next name is very interesting. The name is Lillian. Lillian, like Walt Disney's wife's name. And if we were to have a girl for pregnancy number 1, that baby girl was going to be named Lillian. And we again just knew that we were going to have a girl. We didn't, we had a boy, but we just like, we knew we were gonna have a girl, and we were very much wrong. So the entire time that we were pregnant, we were talking about Lillian, the baby's going to be Lillian. If we have a girl, it's going to be Lillian. Not if we have a girl, we're going to have a girl, and that girl is going to be named Lillian. And then we ended up having a boy, and we named him Landon. And bless up, Landon is the best human being on this planet. I can't even imagine a world without a Landon Carter Fooey in it. It is just like, he is my absolute happy place. And now it's funny because we were so set on naming our girl, if we were to have a girl for pregnancy number 1, Lillian, and now we kind of talk about it and there are names that we like a little bit more. Actually, Lillian as a whole doesn't really flow. Sorry, technical difficulties, but like I was saying, I'm really grateful that we didn't name our child Lillian because I love that name. It is definitely on this list. I just think it's such an elegant name, but I just don't think it is the name of one of our children anymore. I'm just a little bit bitter about this next name. I'm just like a little bit sour about this next name. We have a list of 3 boy names and we have a list of 3 girl names that we are pretty much sold on. This one is in our top 3 for boys. The name is Luca. I love the name Luca. Like Landon and Luca, are you freaking kidding me? It flows so well. It sounds so good. I have loved that name for years. I love it. And then the Disney and Pixar movie came out, Luca. I don't know if you guys watched it. It is a great movie. We have watched it a casual 25 times since it has come out on Disney Plus, and it is just the cutest movie. I love the character Luca, love the character Alberto, love the character Julia. It is such a cute movie. However, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we are kind of in a pandemic right now, and there's kind of a baby boom going on right now, and I just feel so many parents are going to name their child Luca, and that's fine. It's an amazing name. I just don't really want our child to go to grade school and the teacher be like, Luca, and have like 10 kids raise their hand, which I feel like might happen since that movie came out during this little baby boom. So I'm a little bitter because that was on my name list for years now. I just think, oh, so cute. And then Disney and Pixar came out with a movie called Luca, and I just feel like so many people are going to be naming their kids Luca. So it still is in the top 3, could possibly make its way to the top, but I don't think it is going to. This next name also is kind of like the name Willow. It is a name that I love, and I didn't even realize that it was Disney inspired until I was looking through that list. The name is Audrey. Apparently it's from Home on the Range, which I think the last time I watched that movie I was like 6 or maybe even 7. I like the name Audrey, and I also really love the name Aubrey. It is not even in like our top 3. It is definitely a name that I've considered, and I just think it sounds so beautiful, but it is not even in our top 3. So it is a name that I love, but we will just not be using. There is one more name on the Disney category list, and this name makes me giggle a little bit, not because the name is funny, it just makes me giggle at my lack of Disney knowledge. If you are a Disney fan that is subscribed to my channel because of any of my Disney content, you're probably sitting here right now like, girl, are you even a Disney fan? And respect, like, completely feel you. The next name and the final name on the Disney category list is Finn. Love the name Finn. I have recently started to like that name a lot. I wouldn't say it is a name that I've loved since like childhood, excuse me. It is a name that just kind of like came to me recently, and I thought it was really, really beautiful. And then it showed up on that Disney inspired name list, and I was like, Finn, what movie does Finn come from? Apparently it's Star Wars, and it's because I have never watched a single episode. Is it called episode? I've never watched a single movie / episode of Star Wars, and that is why I didn't understand how Finn was Disney inspired. At first I thought they did like a typo and they were supposed to write Flynn from Tangled. No, Finn apparently is a character from Star Wars. It is on the bucket list to watch Star Wars. There are just too many episodes at this point that I am a little overwhelmed with how much time I have to commit into that whole entire genre. But eventually we will get there. So as much as I love the name Finn, I really like the name Finley a lot more. It is in the top 3 for me. So we have Luca, we have Finley, and then we have one right on top, which I am going to talk about in this video, and I feel like I'm going to kick myself in the butt if we end up having a boy. However, I just have serious girl vibes this pregnancy. I am not going to release the #1 girl name in this video, but I am going to talk about this next name in the Nicholas Sparks category, and it is our #1 name for a boy if we have a boy. I don't think we're having a boy this time. I feel so different in this pregnancy in every single aspect, and I just have girl vibes all day, every single day. So I am going to mention our #1 pick for a boy because I'm pretty confident we are having a girl. But if we end up having a boy, hey, you guys know the name. Okay, here we are. We are into our Nicholas Sparks category, and we are going to start this list off on a high note. We're going to start this list off with a bang. This is the #1 name that we have right now for our son if we end up having a boy, and the name is Noah. So classic. Noah Calhoun from The Notebook. Does it get any better? Do you have a better depiction of a male from a Nicholas Sparks book besides Landon Carter and Noah Calhoun? Like, I'll wait. I'll give you a moment. I just love the name Noah so much. It has always been a name that kind of like spoke to me, and Adam is super on board with it as well. Again, I'll be kicking myself in the butt if I release this name and then we end up having a boy. Secretly, I want a healthy baby. I want a healthy, happy baby. I feel like we're having a girl, and it would be awesome to have a boy and a girl. However, if we have 2 boys, I will be the happiest mom as well, because being a boy mom is phenomenal. I could do an entire video on being a boy mom and how much I love it, but we'll save that for another video, if anything. So yeah, the #1 name that we have on our list between the 3 is Noah, then Luca, then Finley. But Noah is reigning supreme right now. We just need to figure out the middle name. Like I said, Landon's middle name is Carter, Landon Carter from the Walk to Remember, A Walk to Remember. I don't feel like I can do Calhoun for Noah. I feel like that's kind of overkill to name our child Noah Calhoun. It's kind of like a little too obvious. I think Noah Calhoun as a whole, that character is far more popular in people understanding who that character is than Landon Carter. A lot of people hear Landon Carter, and if you really have never watched the movie or read the book, or even if you did that once or twice, it probably still doesn't kind of like stick out in your head as like, oh my god, that's from A Walk to Remember. Whereas if you hear Noah Calhoun, I feel like it's just like, bam, she's naming her child after a character from Nicholas Sparks, which is what we actually will be doing if we have a boy. But I just don't feel like I can go down the route of like Noah Calhoun and then his Chinese middle name. So we're still working on a middle name, but we do have Noah as our #1 pick right now for a boy if we are blessed enough to have a boy. And I would also like to say that I am only in my 2nd trimester, and a lot could change from now to then. We could end up picking another name. So I'm saying that is our top pick right now, but by the time I deliver around December 5th, God willing, if all goes well, we could have a completely different name in mind. But at this point in time, Noah is our #1 pick for a boy. Just love that. Like Landon and Noah, come on, how cute. Do you hear how heavy I am breathing? I've only been filming for like 15-20 minutes at this point, and I am just so out of breath from talking continuously to a camera. I am definitely in that point of my pregnancy that even just talking exhausts me. So you better believe right when I am done filming this video, I am jumping on the couch for a solid hour. Okay, let's move on into the next name. The next name is just a classic, timeless name. The name is Savannah. Like, you hear that name Savannah and it just brings you to North Carolina. I love that name. However, my first niece that was ever born is named Savannah. She's a huge part in my life, and I just don't think I can name my child Savannah knowing that my niece's name is Savannah as well. This next name also flows very, very well with Landon. I think that's a common theme for this video. I really want the siblings' names to be cohesive and flow really well together, and the next name definitely hits that mark. The next name is Dawson. Landon and Dawson. I love it. I just don't love it as much as our top three. Actually, now that I'm hearing it, I think I like Dawson a little bit more than Finley. So I might be like etch-a-sketching Finley off of that top three list and throwing Dawson in, or maybe just ranking them equally. It doesn't really matter because there's two ahead that we like more. But I really love that name, Dawson. I've never watched Dawson Creek, so when I hear that name, Dawson Creek doesn't come to mind. I feel like when a lot of people hear Dawson, they automatically think of Dawson's Creek. I don't even know that character at all. Like, I couldn't name a single characteristic about that character because I've never watched that TV show. So when I hear that name, it doesn't automatically jump to Dawson's Creek. When I hear that name, I just think of a very like elegant, southern, like beautiful name. So the next name is Dawson, and the next name after Dawson kind of goes along with that whole entire mindset. The next name is Jonah. Landon and Jonah I don't think flow as well as Landon and Dawson. Jonah, I feel like when I hear that name, I think of more like a biblical name. I am pretty religious. Adam is not religious at all. I'm not religious to the point that, how do I word this? Like, I'm religious. I'm a religious person. I am Catholic, but I think faith is really important to me. It's just not like, I'm not, how do I explain this without sounding, I don't even know. I'm Catholic, I'm religious, I just don't like read the Bible, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not the type of religious person that sits down and reads the Bible and takes Bible notes. Like, that's just not my style of religion. I like to go to church, I like to pray, I have faith. So I think when you hear of Jonah, it sounds more of like a biblical name, and I don't think that we were really going for a biblical name because neither of us is as religious as going to the point that we would name our children a biblical name. I am super rambling right now. Goodness. I like the name Jonah. It's a beautiful name. Reminds me of a southern name, but also really reminds me of a biblical name. And neither of us are religious enough to kind of name our child a biblical name. What, like, why do people even watch me? I don't even know how to make sentences anymore. Like, honestly. Two more names in the Nicholas Sparks category. The next name just reminds me of royalty. I hear this name and I think of like a very regal name. I think of kings, queens, princesses, princes, castles. The name is Veronica. I feel like it's a little too fancy for us. We're not very like fancy people, Adam and I, and like our families. And I just think of Veronica as a very fancy name. I just don't know if it kind of flows with our family values so much to say. It is just a very royal name in my opinion. Like, am I completely on my own with that one? I just think of Veronica and I think of like Queen Veronica or Princess Veronica, which is just so beautiful. I just don't think it kind of like goes along with our vibe for what we would name our child. The name is just so beautiful. If you guys are unfamiliar, Veronica comes from the last song book from Nicholas Sparks, which is my favorite, if not my top 2 favorite books from Nicholas Sparks. I just love that book so much, and I think that they wrote her character perfectly. But again, when I hear that name of Veronica, I just automatically go to like royalty, and I don't feel like Adam and I have quite a royal marriage or a royal family value. I feel like we're kind of just like calm, cool, casual and like chilled out kind of vibe. And the final name in the Nicholas Sparks category kind of goes along with the mindset on why I would not name my child Savannah. Savannah is not technically my niece by blood. Her mother and myself are best friends, so we just call our kids nieces and nephews, and our kids call her and myself auntie, and Adam and her husband uncle. So we're not technically related by blood. However, this next name is one of our nephews that is related by blood. The name is Logan. So Logan is Adam's sister's son. Adam's sister's son. Yes, Logan. I love that name, but I just think it would be too weird to have two Logans in one immediate family group. We have made it to category number 3. This is the catch-all random names category. These are just names that didn't fit into category number 1 or number 2. These names are just such freaking awesome names that I love, love, love so much. The first one being my number 1 pick for a girl, not our number 1 pick for a girl, but my number 1 pick for a girl. From the moment that I found out that I was pregnant, this name has just been living in my mind, and it continues to live in my mind. I love this name more than any other girl name that I have ever loved before, and the name is Luna. Like, again, Landon and Luna. Are you freaking kidding me? It has been a hard no from my husband since day 1, and I have to respect that, because of course the name of our child has to be a name that we mutually agree upon, and he for sure does not mutually agree upon that name. I love that name so much. It reminds me of like the stars and the sky and the universe, and it also reminds me a little bit of Harry Potter, which are just all some of my favorite things. There's a movie on Disney Plus. It's like a little Disney short that is named Luna. It's just the best. Like, if your name is Luna and you're watching this video, go thank your parents immediately for naming you Luna, because you have one of the most beautiful, elegant, timeless names that I have ever heard in my entire life, and I honestly envy you just a little bit. Hear me out for this next name. This next name is actually one of my husband's number 1 picks for a girl, and you're going to hear it and be like, seriously, Allison? That's not one of your number 1 picks, knowing you but at all. The name is Autumn. I love autumn. I love the fall. But I just feel like I talk about that way too much on Instagram and on YouTube and on social media in general. I actually have merch that says autumn is my aesthetic. So I feel like it just would be weird if I named my child Autumn. I feel like it would be me trying way too hard. I love the name Autumn, and we're pretty sure we're going to be using that as the middle name of the girl's name that we have if we end up having a girl. I just couldn't get myself to commit to naming my child Autumn, for the sole reason that I just talk about autumn all the time and how much I love autumn and I love fall, and I just think it would be a little bit overkill. Like, how would it be me wearing my merch saying autumn is my aesthetic while holding a baby named Autumn? I mean, I guess that could be cute, but also I just think it's kind of like overkill. So we really love the name, and it's most likely going to be the middle name of our baby if we end up having a girl, but I couldn't commit to making it the first name. There are a couple left on this list. The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names are names that I love, but they don't have any like symbolic meaning to them. So I'm going to talk about them as a whole and just like list them off rather than talk about them individually. The next 7 names that I really love, I just won't be using them for this next baby: Harlow, Liam, Parker, Olivia, Zoe, Nora, and Jace. Not Chase, Jace, J-A-C-E. Again, I really love these names so much. We just won't be using them. I'm not going to talk about them in depth because they're just names to me. They're names that I really love, but there's no like real true meaning behind why I would want to name my child these names. Besides, I just really like the names. Moving on to the final 2 names of this video. This one also makes me giggle a little bit because I'm going to take it back to when I think this was when I was in high school, maybe even middle school. Do you guys remember the show Growing Up Gotti? I am embarrassed to even say that I used to binge watch that show like crazy. I loved that show so much, and there was a brother named Carmine in that show, and I remember being like a preteen or maybe even just like a really young teen and being like, I love that name. I'm definitely going to name my child Carmine when I have kids. And now that I am about to have baby number 2, I think about that name and I'm like, I still really like that name. I just don't think I would ever use it to name my child. But the name as a whole, Carmine, I just love it. Like, I am Italian, so that name definitely speaks to me. My husband is 100% Chinese, so I don't think that name really speaks to him that much, but I just love that name. I had to include that in the list because, again, it just makes me laugh. That is a name that I have loved since I was like a little preteen watching Growing Up Gotti on my parents' couch on the big screen, and it kind of has stuck with me all these years. Thinking about it now, we have names that we like more than Carmine, but it is definitely still a name that I have considered for this pregnancy. Final name of this video. This is a name that I have loved since I was also like a preteen teenager. I don't remember when this name was like super prevalent, but I will tell you that I was born in '87, so I'm kind of like a 90s baby. I had a majority of my youth in the 90s going into the 2000s, and I feel like if you are a product of the 90s or the 2000s, you kind of, maybe even if it wasn't even known, went through your own little emo stage. Maybe not, maybe it was just me, but I know that like subconsciously and also consciously, I definitely went through my fair share of emo stages. And during one of my emo stages, I became very invested in like bands, especially girl bands. And there was this duo called Tegan and Sarah. Do you guys know Tegan and Sarah? Like, do you listen to Tegan and Sarah? I still listen to them to this day. Some of their music is just like, oh, it is so iconic. And I remember hearing that name Tegan and thinking it was so unique. And I remember going to like see bands and cover bands and being like, oh my god, like I wish I had such a unique name like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the name Allison, but I heard that name and that was one of the first times I was like, oh my god, this person is so badass. Like, who has a name like Tegan? Like, that's such a cool name. And I just fell in love with that name and I've loved it ever since. Adam, not so much. Again, he doesn't really love all of the unique names. He goes more for the traditional names, but for me, I really love the name Tegan. Not as much as our #1 girl pick, but as a whole, like that name is just, it's so cool. Like, I hear that name and I'm like, that's a cool name. Like, that person's gotta be cool. Like, that is a really stinking cool name. So the final name on my list for this video is Tegan. Love that name Tegan, but again, won't be using it for baby number 2. And that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Maybe you got a little bit of inspiration out of it. Maybe you just watched this video because you thought that it would be fun to watch. Either way, I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel and you like the content that I create, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, comment, share this video. Any of those things really do help us content creators. But as always, your support is support enough. I love you guys to the moon and back. I hope that you're having an amazing day and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye guys.